Hi everyone, this is Oren, and I am broadcasting here live from the bedroom I grew up in. And I thought I'd give you a tour of it because you YouTube people demand that there's something interesting to watch when I just want to talk about movies. Let's talk about the top 10 films of the year that I saw this year. For 10, it's a bit of a tie between one film that is kind of a big IP property. I don't need to say the property now that I think about it. It's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This was a kind of a safe film, which I mean by IP in that lots of people were probably going to see this anyway because it was based on the Judy Blume book. But I think it went above and beyond the source material, especially with the performance of Rachel McAdams. I really like the fact that it really very well captured sixth grade, the idea of everything in your life being dramatic and good and bad things all happening at the same time, and just once hating everything around you, even being disappointed in God, while also having so many amazing memories that you're living through that you might not appreciate at the time, but that you kind of appreciate day by day. Yeah, that's what sixth grade is like. So I will say that, but I'm also inclined to pick The Taste of Things, which is, on the other hand, a bit of a avant-garde foreign film. It is a foreign film. It's a French film, starring French Oscar winner Juliette Binoche and this other guy, and they are a couple of pastry chefs. Naturally, this is a film with a lot of food porn. And so I'm going to show you my postcard collection that I've accumulated over many years while I'm walking anyway. And there's a bit of a plot because it's a French movie. The French don't really care that much about plots. For the first half hour, it's mostly just them cooking pastries and a lot of food porn. But then it really develops a plot where he's wants domesticity and she wants freedom in this coupledom. And this is, and it's like a negotiation, and there's like a wedding scene which might or might not happen. And it really is a very beautiful movie. It's one of those films that by the end you're like, I get it. My number 9 film is A Haunting in Venice, which is the third in Kenneth Branagh's trilogy, following Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. And this is a film where it's also a IP film, but it's never going to make anywhere near as much money as Harry Potter or Fast Five or The Avengers. And it's a more of a literary film. I assume that Kenneth Branagh made these films because he wanted an excuse to wear a big mustache and act and get all these big ensembles together. But I think slowly they've improved in quality. This film, I believe, absolutely has the best visuals. It does not feel CGI'd at all. It also, each of these films has a theme. The first one is about, can Poirot forsake his rigid principles when it might be better in the name of justice to let people go or whatever, to let murderers go if he assesses the moral after effect of the murder. The second one is about whether he can be alone. The third one is whether he can truly ever stop working. If someone can ever retire or something, So this is really yeah. And then number 8, I'm gonna say Dumb Money. This is one of many films that tackled capitalism this year. Flaming Hot, Blackberry, Air, and Tetris were other examples. This is definitely an indictment of the haves with the have-nots. It's a little bit like maybe The Big Short, except that I think even though I love Big Short and would rank that one pretty high for different reasons, mainly I guess it's the integration of humor into the plot, I really like Dumb Money because, for one, it was actually easier to understand than The Big Short, even though there was no Margot Robbie in a bathtub explaining things. This was easier to understand. And it also framed it in a good versus evil kind of way. I also liked the way that it was kind of a pandemic movie, and the brother relationship between Paul Dano and Pete Davidson. It had some very odd casting. Seth Rogen continues to get weird parts. I'm not sure why. I've never been a fan of Nick Offerman. I actually didn't like the vast majority of the actors, but as an ensemble, they really worked. My number 7 film is Air. This is Ben Affleck really kind of, if you like Ben Affleck's style, especially in Argo or Gone Baby Gone, it's another film that's in a 70s style where it's heavy on action, less so on character, and it has a lot of tension, pacing, and it's definitely about, a very do or die situation. Maybe it would be a little higher if I felt like it gave more context out of sports. Within the context of the story, it's vindicated by history that these guys who bid on Michael Jordan and risked their entire company on it, um, they made the right move. But how do we know that Michael Jordan, would have been amazing? Like, there's external factors, like maybe he would have broken his leg or something. There are amazing players that, because of external factors and chances, so it's difficult to entirely root for the Matt Damon character named Sonny Vaccaro in this case. There's also the fact that Sonny Vaccaro also kind of corrupted amateurism as we know it, however you believe that case. My number 6 film, I'm going to say, is Maestro. I would say that a lot of biopics are about an actor's excuse to, use it to try to win an award. I felt this definitely was not a conventional biopic. I really appreciated the fact that it took this man's life as a template to explore a very unconventional and loving marriage. Also about, the demise, how one deals with the demise of their wife's health. And I guess you could say just a man who was very extroverted, a man who kind of found joy not from music, but necessarily music with other people, like the collaboration and just the exuberance of his personality really shone through. And obviously, Bradley Cooper really, pours his whole heart and soul into it. My number 5 film is gonna be Fool's Paradise. I thought Charlie Day did this amazing job directing, writing, and starring in it as a pretty much a silent figure who goes up to the highest ranks of Hollywood and politics and then falls back down. And he is really a mentally ill patient, and no one knows him anywhere near as much. It's inspired a little by a particularly Woody Allen film that I haven't seen, and Being There, the Hal Ashby film with Peter Sellers. And everyone just thinks he's this genius when he really is a mentally ill man. And the film is really about a friendship between two males. The other one is Ken Jeong, and Ken Jeong, I liked him already, but he has so much more respect for me for this film. But I admired this film most for its physical comedy, which Charlie Day really excelled at. My number 4 film is, it's all a bit muddled up. I'm going to say Killers of the Flower Moon. I think Martin Scorsese was guilty of being a little excessive in not being in his visions in the last few films. I thought Wolf of Wall Street and Irishman were both the same story as Goodfellas, with Wolf of Wall Street with the capitalism bent and basically starting in the second act, and Irishman just being Goodfellas with grumpy old men. This was a different story. It was the same themes of the easy corruption of man and, guilt and all that, but it absolutely it was entirely different in its scope, its story. I absolutely admire the way that few historical fictional films like this can stick so close to the facts and still produce something amazing. Like, I could think of like The People vs. O.J. Simpson, or the Monica Lewinsky story that Ryan Murphy did, or the film Titanic, or even Remember the Titans. Actually, I thought was a pretty good example of this. But anyway, I just thought it had a lot to go, and the fact that he made a 3 hour and 26-minute film, and I could watch it and not feel like this is dragging. That's pretty incredible. I didn't love all the performances. I really did like Scott Shepherd's performance and Lily Gladstone's performance. My number 3 film, I'm gonna go with Tetris. It's definitely hasn't been extremely on the top of anyone else's list, but I have never seen a film so exciting and sexy and fast-paced out of a topic, the battle over intellectual property, that is so seemingly boring for me. So I absolutely Yeah, basically, let's just, since I don't want to take up too much time, I think that that's a really good way to put it. My number, it stars Taron Egerton. I wonder why they just didn't have Shia LaBeouf in the role. I also really enjoyed, my number two film was Oppenheim. I mean, this is, Christopher Nolan deserves an Oscar. I mean, he is passionate about everything he does. He does such deep research on the most specific of scientific, topics, whether wormholes or dreams and, backwardsness and forwardness, and absolutely throws himself into that. You can tell that, like, that Stanley Kubrick level of detail, and he brings something new, he reinvents himself, and like how he tells the story, he adds something revolutionary every film. It's very difficult to do that. I thought the performances were really good. The detail was really good. Obviously, I have the same complaint as a lot of other people that it is a bit runs long. I think it's more engaging than Killers of the Flower Moon minute by minute, except that the second half could have been curtailed a little more. I do agree that it was two different movies, but who knows if people would have come to part two. Let's watch a movie about the aftermath. I mean, it probably could have been shorter and it would have been a better movie. Just like my YouTube video could be shorter, would be better. So let me move on to my number one film of the year, which I think is Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. I think that Wes Anderson has gotten a little bloated with his cast lately. Maybe his peak was like Moonrise Kingdom or Royal Tenenbaums or even Darjeeling Limited. This film, which is this film, I felt like even though it had a humongous cast, it really just centered around five people: Tom Hanks, Scarlett Johansson, Jason Schwartzman's characters, and Jason and ScarJo's kids. I don't remember the actors' names. You'll have to forgive me about that. And everyone else just kind of fit into the tapestry in a larger piece. And then there are also these kind of like French new wave touches of just going behind the scenes and or Fellini-esque kind of things. But it was beautifully shot. It just felt very of the moment and zeitgeisty, I think, with the sort of like self-reflection about art. It felt very pandemic-ish. It just felt very beautiful and complete, and it might have even been one of his more emotional movies, minus the Royal Tenenbaums, probably. Anyway, that's my top 10. Thank you so much for watching.